Today's been a heavy day because three of us went to the Israeli consulate to watch some of the footage that we've never seen. These images and media, a lot of it raw, some of it they did some editing to identify things of what happened in the massacre on October 7th. It's 47 minutes long. Now, some of it I have seen before, and you can find it online. A lot more than I expected was new to me. And again, I do believe people should see this. I understand the sensitivity of the families. I understand the concern that if you don't want to believe that October 7th happened, well, then it doesn't matter what you see. But I do believe for many, that there's an aspect of this that I don't think we appreciate. I realized something that I had missed before. Okay? It took me immediately and deeply into a past trauma. The exact feeling that I had when I learned why 9/11 happened. Terrorists targeted the Twin Towers and Washington, D.C. to take out the great symbols that represent America. The method was not madness. They were sane. They were just evil. But the method was a message. Their unholy efforts triggered what Americans feared most. Terrorists robbing us of who and what we are about at home. And so they got what they asked for. The wrath of a people united in a common fear and concern that it is us or it is them.
So that's Chris Cuomo from News Nation. That's a rag. News Nation is a horrible rag, horrible Nazi rag. Chris Cuomo is a Nazi propagandist, right? Is a horrible, phony, hypocrite Nazi propagandist, right? He talks about unholy terror, right? And people got what they asked for. Well, if that's the case, the Israelis been stomping the shit out of the Palestinians for 75 years, invaded their land. So if that's the case, then Hamas gave they asked what they asked for. I mean, right? By that metric, if you're saying that 9/11, which was an inside job by by a bunch of Nazis and who contracted it out to the Saudis, right? He said so. Who then? But wait a minute. But then they went and attacked the Iraqis and killed 1 million people, right? So for no reason, the Iraqis had nothing to do with 9/11, right? But Chris Cuomo is saying these people got what they deserve. Who? The Iraqis? Chris Cuomo is a Nazi propagandist. He proves it right there. He says America was attacked on 9/11, and we gave the people that did it got what they deserve. Well, in this article right here on Esquire says 15 years, more than 1 million people killed, and no one was held responsible. What is Chris Cuomo talking about? Who got what they deserve? Who got what they deserve, Chris Cuomo? The Iraq, you killed 1 million innocent people for no fucking reason, right? And then you come on News Nation in 2023 screaming about 9/11 and the people who did it got what they deserved. And forgot that y'all massacred 1 million people for no reason. You caused the death and massacred over 1 million people for no reason. They starved to death 500,000 children in Iraq before the war even started. They put a blockade, a medical blockade, and was starving just like they did Cuba and I think Eritrea, different countries are under blockade. They blockaded them, caused the death of like 500,000 people, particularly children, because they couldn't get the medicine and stuff, right? Then you bomb them for no reason and then kill 1 million of them, and you say they got what they deserve because they, wait a minute, they had nothing to do with 9/11. Iraq was not involved at all. Matter of fact, they was the enemies of the people that you supposedly were after, right? And then he said, this is unholy terror. No, that's unholy terror, Chris Cuomo. To attack people who is innocent, kill 1 million people, carpet bomb a country, right? Cause all kinds of terror and destruction and murder and death. Nobody gets held accountable, and then you come on TV on your Nazi propaganda program screaming about they got what they deserve. Now, here's the kicker, right? Here's the kicker. So Biden, here's another article from NPR, right? Biden declassified secret FBI report detailing the Saudi nationals' connection to 9/11. So the people that actually was helping do this inside job, the Saudis and their, the nationals that they already knew about. Oh, well, you didn't bomb Saudi Arabia. They're your best friends in the Middle East, along with Israel, right? Why is that? So-called democracy. Saudi Arabia is not a democracy, right? So they behead people over there if they don't like. They chopped a Washington Post lawyer up in a Turkish bathroom and put him in bags. This is their best friends, the Saudis, who helped them commit 9/11, right? Which was an inside job. Everybody knows that, right? But Chris Cuomo says, right? These people in Iraq got what they deserved. Somebody committed unholy terror and they got what they deserve, right? They got what they asked for, right? Something don't make sense. Chris Cuomo is a Nazi, racist propagandist, right? I would never fuck with nobody like Chris Cuomo. He's a horrible person. You know what I mean? Like black people sit around and talk to that dude. Are you crazy? And you're not smart enough to see what he does. He's just a Nazi propagandist. Said he hanging out with the Israelis. They showed him a video. All the time the Israelis, right before all of that happened, the Israelis murdered, I think, like 800 Palestinians. Chris Cuomo didn't say anything. He didn't want to see no videos, right? They massacred about 800, innocent people for no reason, protesting and shit like that. They massacred them right before October the 7th, right? The 6 months before that. 600, I think it was like 800, up to 800 Palestinians got murdered by the Israeli so-called defense forces. Where was Chris Cuomo at? I'm just saying, where was he at? Was he somewhere saying, I saw the video of them massacring these Palestinians and stealing their land and I'm outraged? No, he didn't say shit. He didn't say shit. He didn't care. He on News Nation doing some kind of propaganda. You know what I mean? Combing his hair and, talking some bullshit. But then these Israelis, all of a sudden, Chris Cuomo said, he comes on here and, really, in the position he's saying is, these people are getting what they deserve. He's trying to say the Palestinians got what they deserve because Hamas committed terrorism. I mean, some Palestinians are Christians who've been in Palestine for 25, since for 2,000 years. They the real Semites. They got what they deserve, Chris Cuomo. What they deserve was a bunch of white people from Germany and New York and Uzbekistan and Russia to all come to their country, right? Take their land, kill their grandparents, summarily execute them for 75 years, beat them, spit on them, all kinds of stuff. Go back and look at my page. There's a video of them Jews walking around spitting on people, right? I mean, just doing whatever, all kinds of murdering people, spitting on them, taking their land, killed their grandparents, right? And then when something bad happened to them, Chris Cuomo, and then they start genociding people. Chris Cuomo says, well, he's trying to propose that they're getting what they asked for, right? Killed 20, go in there and carpet bomb the place, displace 2 million people, kill 10,000 children and babies. And then Chris Cuomo, he comes on TV like, oh yeah, these people, and try to make the case about they getting what they deserve because he saw a video. Oh, okay. So you didn't see no videos before then. You work for CNN, but only videos you see is when some Israelis experienced so-called terrorism after terrorizing a population and stealing their land for like 80 years. But all of a sudden, you just saw a video and you was disturbed. Fuck out of here, right? And then you're gonna make the case that these people are getting what they deserved. Just like the Iraqis got what they deserved, even though they had nothing to do with 9/11. You see what I'm saying? Like the Palestinians had nothing to do with the so-called Holocaust in Germany, but right now they are bearing the brunt of what happened in Germany, even though that was white-on-white crime, right? Some Anglo-Saxon Christians attacking some Judeo-Christians, right? And in a power struggle in Germany, just like the Civil War in the United States was just white people fighting each other, right? And so what do? They go there and attack. The Palestinians had to bear the brunt of that, and 23, 75, 80 years later. They got to deal with a bunch of white people from England and Germany and France and Uzbekistan and Ufukistan and everywhere else in Russia coming into their country, right? Being given weapons, right? And then and taking their land, killing their grandparents, and you gotta live with these people. I told you, integration is the worst shit in the world. If you ever been integrated, you've been basically destroyed. You see? Integration is not democracy. That shit is you're a prisoner of war. It's destruction when you've been integrated. It's, degradation when these people show up. There's nothing to get happy about. You know what I mean? And so they come there and fuck these people over, and then when the shit blow up in their face, they scream terrorism, and then Chris Cuomo comes and says he saw terrorism, and these people getting what they deserve. Really? That's your analysis? Your analysis started on October the 7th? These people, Chris Cuomo is a Nazi propagandist. Period, plain and simple. These people are being shown for what they are, so they rolling out people like Chris Cuomo to try to cover up the fact that they're a bunch of Nazis. The emperor has no clothes. You're starting to see these people for who they are and what they are, right? They call him unholy. He said he saw unholy terror. You didn't see no unholy terror when they went into Iraq and killed 1 million people, Chris Cuomo? Chris Cuomo is a fucking Nazi, is a crazy Nazi propagandist tool. Right? These people, they see what they want to see, right? They see exactly what they want to see, right? And nobody gets held accountable, but this time it's gonna be different, I think, right? See, this time I don't think you're gonna kill 1 million people in Gaza, and 500,000 people, 1 million people, and walk away clean with clean. Just skip down the road with a bunch of people like Chris Cuomo, talking about people getting what they deserve. I don't think it's gonna end that way. Eventually, you know what I'm saying. You gotta pay the piper. You see, and I think I won't make this too long, but you know, like eventually the wheel's gonna come off. But you know what? I'm gonna give my prediction for the future, and it's apocalyptic, right? So I give you my apocalyptic vision. You see, the what they doing to these people, right? What they doing to these people is just gonna keep coming back on their heads, right? And it's gonna be biblical. You see, my prediction for the future is apocalyptic and it's futuristic, right? And it's beyond belief. And I think what's gonna happen, basically, in the next couple of years, right? What's gonna happen to them is it's gonna be biblical. See, let's take a look at Gaza real quick, right? So this is a picture of one of the scenes in Gaza where it was a refugee camp, right? Because basically all the houses were destroyed, and so there was some starving people camped out there. Not Hamas, probably some children, women, starving, trying to hide out, in a camp, and they dropped a bunker buster bomb on them. Some starving women and children, right? And Chris Cuomo is on TV saying, "Well, these people got what they deserve." You see, for 75 years, they got what they deserve. But see, that's the attitude of white people, like in America, right? The Negro been going through shit with them for 400 years in America. They said, well, these people getting what they deserve, right? You getting what you deserve. Really? Everybody getting what they deserve? The question is, if that's good for the goose, when is it good for the gander, right? I mean, if you just throwing that, people getting what they deserve shit, Chris Cuomo, when is you gonna get what you deserve is the question, right? And what do you deserve? And we're gonna get into that, right? See, soon the whole earth is gonna look like Gaza Strip, Chris Cuomo. See, that's something they don't believe. They believe that they above it. That judgment, see, they'll tell you karma is not for them. You know what I mean? They'll tell you, well, the Bible's not real, karma's not for them. And the Bible it says, for what a man sow, that he shall reap, Chris Cuomo. Right? And I believe that. What you sow, you shall reap, Chris Cuomo. You see? So what happened to these people is just what they sowed it and they reaped it. It's simple as that. It ain't rocket science. Anybody in their right mind knew that was going something like that. I knew it. I had been saying for a long time. I said, you know what? This shit is going. It's going to start coming apart at the seams, particularly in places like Palestine. And I was thinking that like maybe a few weeks before that shit happened. And it ain't just Palestine, Chris Cuomo. The whole planet gonna come apart at the seams because that is a symptom of a bigger problem. Speaking of unholy terror, right? Chris Cuomo says unholy terror, but when they kill 1,000,000 people, it's not unholy terror. It's justice bombs. It's humanitarian missile strikes, right? It's we have the moral high ground, right? Somehow Israelis they got the moral high ground. Like what? Could they white people? You know what I mean? Like, where is this coming from? These Nazis, they come with all this different wild ass, ideology, Nazi propaganda, right? And it's gonna come apart. You see, the Hamas is turning that shit into Vietnam. This is gonna be different. Gaza is gonna be the front line in the Third World War. It's just the front. Gaza, Ukraine. These places are the front line in the Third World War. Soon, the Houthis are going to sink one of their ships. Mark my words, right? A group of psychics saying that I believe it. Soon, the Houthis are going to sink one of their ships. And I already knew that was going to happen. I knew that was going to happen when I saw what was going on in the Red Sea. And then I saw a psychic report coming out of crypto viewing. And it just confirmed what I didn't need crypto viewing to confirm anything for me, but it popped up in one of the viewing sets that they're gonna sink a ship over there somewhere soon, right? One of either the U.S., French, or Israeli ships, something like that. They're gonna sink that shit, right? And then probably at that point, all hell is gonna break loose. So, but I don't want to make this too long. But let's. Since Chris Cuomo talked about unholy terror, let me paint a picture for you of the unholy terror that's coming. You know what I mean? I've seen it, in a dream, right? So what's gonna happen is this shit gonna slowly accelerate. They're gonna sink a ship. I mean, just in the near term, right? They're gonna sink ships. Things are gonna pick up, right? The Houthis are gonna step up to the plate. Hezbollah, to me, don't seem like they really want to get in it. You know what I mean? They don't really, you know, there's a lot of grandstanding, and then understandably, right? Because they're gonna try to turn the whole place from Lebanon to Syria, um, to Yemen, to I mean, you got people down in Tunisia, all these different countries want to get involved. They'll bomb all of that shit. So it's understandable, right? That's why black people in America are so scared of white people, because they've been terrorized by them for 400 years, and they know they'll bomb Baltimore City, they'll bomb anywhere where these Negroes are. They'll turn that shit into rubble in 30 seconds. They don't care, and then rebuild and gentrify on your blood and bones. That's why the Negro in America is so scared, of these people, right? And so it's understandable, right? When you seeing like the horrors and shit that they do, that like for instance, the Hezbollah don't really want to get it popping like that, or none of them. They upset, but they don't really want to get it popping because they know. You watch Iraq, you watch them kill 1,000,000 people, right? So you know what they'll do to you, right? See, the Negroes, like the Negro in America, they play stupid, but deep down, it's just fear. It's fear from being terrorized for 400 years, right? They play stupid, you know what I mean? But you gotta be a little stupid actually to elect a segregationist 3 times like Jim Crow Joe Biden, aka Genocide Joe, right? You gotta be a stupid Negro to vote for somebody like that 3 times. Who in there? I mean, what I mean? Like what other than fear and stupidity, what could drive you to do something like that, right? To vote for a person who wanted to put your parents and your grandparents in concentration camps, right? And still won't and refuse to do anything for you, right? Talk to you any kind of way. Call you, hey boy, you know what I mean? Like, won't do anything for you while giving hundreds of $billions to an apartheid state like Israel and some Nazis in Ukraine, right? And giving billions of dollars to immigrants from across the borders, coming across the borders that, wouldn't have no problem ethnically cleansing a bunch of Negroes. Just a thought. You know what I mean? But I digress, right? So, this thing is going to, like, I mean, I could concentrate on this. I could talk about Chris Cuomo, but I'm gonna talk about the future, right? Because I'm a bit of a futurist, right? I've seen the future, right? And so I'm a bit of a futurist, so I talk about the future. And the future is bright beyond what's going to happen over the next few years. But you have to make it through the next few years. You see, and the next few years are going to be a gauntlet. And it's not going to go the way that you think, right? It's going to be a gauntlet and it's not going to go the way you think, right? Like, a lot of people, they think they going back to normal. They say, well, COVID's over, it's going back to normal. No, this shit is going, the normies, right? You call it, the normies, they think everything, it'll be fine, we're just gonna go to the mall, we're gonna have a good Christmas. And then after that, smooth sailing, right? The economy's gonna boom. You know what I mean? We gotta kill some of these Arabs over here, but that'll calm down. Think so? I don't think so. Right? I don't think so. Right? This is different. Right? Them Hamas cats is dug in deep. Right? So you're looking at a Vietnam situation that can trigger World War III, right? Not to mention what's coming next year in America. So you got a lot coming down the line. I'm gonna try to outline it pretty quick and go over it, and I'll probably go over it again. I always talk about these things, but um, it's going to get biblical at a certain point, right? And not biblical in a way that most people understand. See, when I say biblical, most people think, well, white Jesus. That's what pops in your head. I know because you've been propagandized by Nazis so long. I know, when somebody say, when somebody say, God Almighty, Jesus Christ, right? You get weird. You start feeling weird inside. You think of like this white man, with long hair, looked like Keanu Reeves, Jim Caviezel with his hair slicked back. I understand, right? But when I say biblical, I'm talking about something totally different. I'm talking about the real Bible. I'm talking about the prophecy of Ezra. You see, I'm talking about uh, the end time prophecies of Ezra. I'm talking about the end time prophecies of Joel. I'm talking about the end time prophecies of John of Patmos and Revelations. That's the biblical I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, white people getting screaming about getting raptured while white Jesus float up in the sky, right? Keanu Reeves is somebody floating in the sky. That's bullshit. I'm talking about real biblical. You see, I'm talking about that old time, Old Testament prophecy of the end times from Ezra and Joel, right? The real prophecies. You see, right? Where Revelations say there was a say he looked like he came down. He looked like he burned in a furnace. That prophecy. You see, when I say biblical, they saw a man. You see, named Christ, and they thought it was they called him Christ. And John in Revelation said, but his skin was dark, so dark it looked like he was burned in a furnace. I ain't talking about Keanu Reeves. I'm talking Wesley Snipes. You see, so this is a different biblical. And so that Bible, the real Bible, you see. And so what's gonna happen, right? I was thinking about this today, so I'm gonna talk about this, right? I see so much Nazi propaganda, you know what I mean? And you start thinking about shit, right? And so in the real Bible, and really what's going to happen is, right, as this whole thing accelerates and goes into a almost biblical view, right? The real biblical view is frightening to say the least, and it's beyond belief. It's beyond what you could imagine, and so, and maybe that's why they don't talk about it. They try to cover it up, right? And so, you can't sell seats in a church maybe this way, right? You got to tell people they're gonna find a husband and get a Bentley coupe and all that kind of shit. Get some Gucci clothes, right? Gucci man, right? So, but what's really gonna happen is gonna be beyond belief. You see, and there ain't gonna be no rapture. You see, and so after this situation starts to spiral out of control, and soon it will, right? Because those cats is dug in. You're gonna get a ship sunk. You're gonna get them sinking ships over there, right? Oil prices are gonna skyrocket. You see, and you know how out of touch. I just think I digress, but you know how out of touch people are. They're bombing the shit out of a population of people, right? And those people going around, they just in America, they just going around, Christmas shopping. Merry Christmas, yay! Merry Christmas, hi, hey, Christmas. Boom. Do you know they canceled Christmas in Jerusalem, which is supposedly the home, right, of Christ? There will be no Christmas celebrations, right? There will be, nothing going on like that. It shows you how horrible and how out of touch with reality that people are, right? And so, you know, they're actually bombing the real Christians. The Palestinians are the real Christians. This is how you know the Antichrist is in charge of the earth. I know I'm all over the place, but you know what I mean? So much shit be hitting sometimes, right? Like these are the real Christians. These descendants of the people that was dead 2,500 years ago. Not Benjamin Netanyahu. You see, they are Semites who date back to those people. Some of them might even date back to the lineage of Christ. You see, that's how much of a Semite they are. And you're bombing the shit out of them on Christmas. But you claim to be a Christian. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I'm going to church on Sunday. Well, church ain't supposed to be on Sunday any goddamn way. But anyway, right? That's how I know you ain't no Christian. That's number one, right? No follower of the Christ, which means a follower of the Messiah. That's what that means when you say I'm a follower of Christ. Christ means anointed Messiah. That's all it means. It's not anybody's name. It means you're a follower of the anointed Messiah. You have to understand what these things mean, right? So, but anyway, I digress. So, but you're bombing the descendants of Christ. Benjamin Netanyahu is not a, they claim he's a Jew. Christ was a Jew. Benjamin Netanyahu is no relation to, would be in no bloodline relation to the Messiah. You see? A Judean. He has no connection to Judeans. None of them do. Stupid. But the people you're bombing and Joe Biden, these Satanists and these anti-Christ agents and these Nazis, they do. That's how you know it's inverted. It's up. The world is up. Satan has turned the world upside down. Up is down and down is up. You don't get it? And you say, and I'm just telling you the truth, right? Like, the, you know, Morpheus said, all I'm offering you is the truth. That's it. I'm just telling you the truth. You know, my children, they hate me, right? I got two sons. They hate my guts, right? Because I told them the truth. You know, people, you tell people the truth, they hate you, right? Like the Bible said that too. It said, "Do you now hate me because I tell you the truth?" Right? Let's bring that up. You see, I'm Morpheus in this bitch, right? I'm Morpheus up in this bitch. Am I there for your enemy because I tell you the truth? All I'm offering you is the truth. You see? That's it. Nothing else, nothing more. That's why I pull up these articles when I talk. Because just to prove, I'm just telling you the truth. Now, some of the things I say is my analysis and opinion when I look into the future as a futurist, right? But that's different. The past is already written, and the present you already know. I don't have to really tell you too much about that, unless you're not informed. You're a low information type of person, which a lot of people are. No disrespect. A lot of people are, right? But am I your enemy now because I've told you the truth? You hate me? And all I'm offering you is the truth. See, as a Buddhist, I have to do that. So this is Galatians 4:16 is a very Buddhistic um, proverb or scripture. You see, that's something that the Buddhists would say. Am I your enemy because I tell you the truth? Because as a Buddhist, you're supposed to search for reality. And that's why I do what I do. I guess learning a little Buddhism, right? And the truth is almost crazier than fiction at this point. It's going to get crazier than fiction. I'm going to outline a little bit of the future. You know, since Chris Cuomo talked about unholy terror, Chris Cuomo is going to see unholy terror soon. But not in the way that you think, right? See, let me paint a picture for you. Imagine Gaza everywhere looking like Gaza. The difference is there's some so-called alien creatures chasing you through the rubble trying to eat you and peel your skin off. Imagine that, right? Baltimore, or, I don't know, New York, Delaware, Denver, Chicago, Mexico, I don't know, Colombia, Brazil, England, UK, Paris, right? Germany, South Africa. Imagine everywhere looking like that, right? At a certain level. A lot of places, right? And not only that, right? On top of this shit being destroyed, you have a bunch of, you know, wild alien creatures running around, snatching your ass up, enslaving you and eating you, and peeling your skin off trying to eat you. Right? I mean, I told you, you know, my view of the future is different. And so that's kind of what I see happening. And so I see this whole thing accelerating, right, in a way that people probably don't expect, right? They think they're gonna bomb a million people. They're gonna do. I mean, how many times can you commit a genocide before something, before the whole world falls apart, right? Oh, I got. Well, I just keep committing genocide. We'll kill a million people in Iraq. We'll kill, 250,000 in Syria. We'll kill, maybe a half a million in Gaza, right? And then it's business as usual. Really? We'll just we'll just get Chris Cuomo to come on TV and tell you about how people are getting what they deserve. Chris Cuomo, my message to him is he has no idea what's about to happen. Talking like that, anybody can see where this is going, right? And it's not, you know, his propaganda is not going to be able to cover it up. His Nazi propaganda is not going to be able to cover it up. The world is going to be destroyed in a way that Chris Cuomo couldn't even imagine. You see, and it has to be destroyed, but it's going to be destroyed in a way that's unimaginable to most people. That's what I mean. Like, so, and you might say, well, that sounds crazy. It's not. Just like I said, I expected. I expected what happened in Gaza to happen just the way it happened. Right? Like I swear to God, I wouldn't lie. Right? I don't know if that's effective. I swear to God, but anyway, I don't know how convincing that is. But I swear, about 3 weeks before that happened, I was every day it kept popping. I said, you know what? Because I was seeing different reports. I watch world news. I said, you know what? That shit is gonna blow soon. And lo and behold, a few weeks later, that happened. I wasn't shocked. I said, oh well. I just been expecting that. I was wondering when it was gonna happen. They say the Messiah couldn't figure it out. This person didn't know. Boom, boom, boom. I think they could have asked me. I would have told them. You know what I mean? Like you can expect some shit like that soon, and they knew it. It goes. They knew it was gonna happen. You see, nobody's more afraid of other people than a goddamn bunch of Nazi tyrants. You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to wrap this up, but I want to get to the future, right? I want to talk about the future. You see, because I don't look at them. I don't. I see the future sometimes, and so I don't really look at things as they are. You see, because I look at kind of where they're going, and I like to look at the occult, not just where they're going as far as the stock market and gold prices or something like that, or not just like conflicts, but in a larger sense, right, of the future, in an occult sense, like the Bible or prophecy and things. And so where this is going is, just like I was thinking about Gaza before it happened, and I knew that was going to happen, right? Not in a fashion that it did happen, but I knew something like that was going to happen. And so um, it was just because, and it wasn't because like human psychic ability, which all people are psychic. That's not why I knew. It was just straight analysis. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of like A, B gonna lead to C. It was just a matter of time. And so, um, and so now I know. I'm just telling you the same way. Now I know it's a matter of time which can really happen next. Simple as that. I've done the math. I've done the calculations. Right. Science is basically prophecy. Right. And so what happens next is gonna blow people's mind after a couple of years. You know what I mean? Like we'll probably make it to the next election. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna go. So we'll probably make it to the next election, right? It's gonna be a rough ride. I do not see Joe Biden making it. You know what I mean? Like that, I don't see. You know what I mean? Like, and how this is probably gonna play out is um, an escalation overall in just conflicts, particularly in that area. You know, ships getting sunk, um, Lebanon getting jumping in, Syria, Russia, and then the same thing in America, right? Where you're gonna have conflict in America. You see, you have conflict in America soon, right? And I mean, the place is kind of falling apart, right? And so all of that conflict is going to happen all together. It's going to come together like a perfect storm. The American internal conflict, you see, that's taking place, right? Because of the stories on UFOs. The UFO thing is a part of that. You have to understand that's part of that. I don't know, think I'm gonna get into that right now because this already ran too long. But the UFO thing is a part of, it's part of the Antichrist. It's a part of that whole story, right? It's all been predicted, and so you know that whole thing is gonna start busting wide open around the election time. You're gonna see more stories, UFOs, all related to the political conflict. The technology, the aliens, etc. Um, Leading to the Antichrist, who's running all of this, right? And Kanye West talked about some of this in that rant he just did, right? I recommend everybody check it out, the Kanye West rant, and I may play it and break down some of what he was saying later if I get time. And so, but yeah, so as you see, right, Chris Cuomo talk about unholy terror. He's gonna see it, but not the way he thinks. You see, and so what you're gonna see is, the American internal conflicts, which I know is coming. I've been saying that for years to myself for years, and to people around me. But that's coming, and then that's going to merge almost at the same time with the world conflict because it's all interconnected. You see, and here's a secret: the Israelis really want America to be destroyed, right? And I'm gonna tell you why. Because they want to lead things. They want the Antichrist to lead from from Jerusalem and Israel, and they want to get rid of the American power structure so that they would have to bow down totally to them, and they won't have to answer to anybody. But that's a whole nother story, right? And so this whole conflict is going to come together, you see, because it's already coming together, right? You have the Israelis running the American government, right? You got the internal conflicts, between the deep state, the U.S. That's why the UFO shit is coming out now. Why Trump is involved in the whole UFO thing. The elections coming up again. All that's going to coincide with eternal conflict, the world conflict. It's going to kind of integrate, right? And that whole thing is going to blow up at the same time, right? Probably around next year, either around the time of the elections in 2024 or after that. This whole thing is going to accelerate and blow up between now and then, right? At some point, and you can see it. I know I can. I've been thinking about this for a while, and so that whole thing is going to come together and blow up, and then after that is when it gets really interesting. You see, because you could call that. I don't know. I'll call it. How am I doing on time? Oh shit, this went really long. I'm gonna try to wrap up in 2 minutes, maybe a minute. So you could call that World War IV. You see, but that would be the start of the interplanetary wars, right? Now I'm going a little out on a limb with that one, but that's when I say it gets biblical. You see, but as long as it stays local, like what I mean, as long as you get like the Middle East, internal American conflict, all of that's just kind of like business as usual. The minute that some ships show up, that's when this shit uh, gets crazy, right? That's when it gets biblical. Until then, it's not quite biblical. But when those ships show up, then it gets biblical. But they're not going to show up the way people think. Speaking of unholy terror, Chris Cuomo, because they don't come in peace. See, I'm gonna try to break this down real quick. So basically, what I think is going to happen is all right, for instance, so the Israeli, let me break this down. So I'll take it more than a minute. I said it was going to be a minute. But, so the Israeli, why is Israel, the same reason, but why is Israel in the Middle East? Israel is a Nazi outpost that was created after World War II. You see? And so the Nazis, the Americans, the Euro-Nazi, the Nazis are basically at the hierarchy of white people, right? And so that's what Nazism is, right? It's a white supremacist fascism. So they decide they need to keep control of the uncivilized masses, right? The darkies. So they created the state of Israel, right? I'm just gonna reveal some occult shit to you. So they created the state of Israel as a Nazi outpost. Why? Where is Israel? What is on the border of Israel? That would be Egypt. What is Egypt? Well, Egypt is an African country, whether you like it or not, or believe it or not, right? So even though it was overrun by Arabs, Egypt is an African country. Tunisia is an African country. Morocco was an African country, even though they were invaded and overrun by Arabs from the north and white people from Europe. You see? And so they needed, they wanted, they want to control, the Nazis wanted to control the planet. So you needed an outpost, a colony, an outpost, or how should I put this? Um, a base of operations. That way you could go into Africa. You could go into North Africa, right? Which is Palestine, Syria, Yemen, Eritrea, all that area, and then go penetrate into Africa. You see? They needed an outpost. So Israel was perfect, the perfect, perfect outpost to create a white supremacist Nazi outpost that from there you could run operations in the north into, so-called Middle East, North Africa, and down into Africa after World War II. That's what that's about, right? And then they could use them as a force to attack all of the black people and the so-called, the darkies, Arabs and the darkies in that area, right? So that's why Israel was created in a nutshell. I'm trying to keep it simple. I can get more technical, but I'm trying not to get all technical, right? So that's why they created the state of Israel, right? They needed to create a team, a colony, an outpost, a battalion, call it whatever you want, right? A base to, a Nazi base to, basically counter the North Africans and the Africans. That's why those Nazis are there. Now, think about it like this, right? So they sent, this was a force sent in to destabilize and attack, right? Et cetera, et cetera. Well, the same thing is going to happen on a planetary level. The Lord of Hosts, who you call Jesus Christ, the Messiah, is going to send or allow a force to come in. Just like the Israelis were sent in to destroy and destabilize North Africa and Africa. The Lord of Hosts is going to send a force to come in. You see, non-humans, but humanoid, the skinwalkers, and allow them to destabilize the whole fucking planet, right? It's the same thing, but kind of on a planetary level, right? And so he's gonna allow them to come in and destabilize the earth and do whatever they want, fuck everything up, just like they bombing Gaza. You see, they're gonna do the same thing. He's gonna allow them. It's an alien invasion. No, it's not. It's part of a plan. You see? And he's gonna allow them to do whatever they want, trash the place, right? Run roughshod over, motherfuckers. Probably eating people, peeling their skin off. All kinds of wild. Speaking of unholy terror, Chris Cuomo. And so that's the kind of scenarios that are gonna take place after 2025. You see? As you go into 2025, 2026 and on, right? And when they're finished, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna say this: when they're finished, that's when he comes. And if you think that was something, wait till he shows up. He's gonna let them do their thing. Just like the Europeans and Americans sent the Israelis in, he's gonna send these. I'll call them the skinwalkers. He's gonna send in the skinwalkers. They look like Ebony Maw. I saw them in a dream. They look like Ebony Maw. So and they already know this. Maybe that's why they drew Ebony Maw in the comic books to look like that. But the skinwalkers look like Ebony Maw, and from Infinity War. And so I talked about this before. And so then, you know, he's gonna let them run rampant on the earth, and then he's gonna move in right after that. So it may be something he's done before, where he uses them as a destabilization force, right? For people that he really hates and don't like, right? For motherfuckers that he really don't like. And you know what? I can understand that. You know, watching these people bomb Gaza, I can understand that. You know what I mean? Like he's watching this, and he said, how could I deal with them? You know what I mean? Somebody, hey, get the skinwalkers and send them in. Let them do their thing. And he just sends them in and unleashes them. You see? And he unleashes them on on people, right? On the population as a destabilization force, kind of doing his dirty work. And then he's gonna send in the super soldiers, 100, maybe 50,000 to mop up. He's gonna tell them, listen, all right, you guys break out. You had your fun, right? Then he steps in, right? And it says in the Bible, right? Let's end on that. I'm gonna end on that quote. Right? Let's end on this one, where he says, his eyes was a flame of fire. He was very angry, and on his head were many crowns, right? He was a highly decorated man who knew many things, is very intelligent, right? And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. So there's no one named Jesus Christ, just FYI. It's written in Revelation 19 and 12. That's not a name, that's a title. It means anointed Messiah. So the anointed Messiah, before that I believe it says he had a vesture dipped in blood. You see? He had a vesture dipped in blood, meaning there was blood all over his clothes from fighting and killing people, right? And then he said his eyes was a flame of fire. He was very angry, you know what I mean, when he saw what you did to the Gazans, you see. Descendants, the Semites who descended from the Judeans, who he descends from. You see? Yes. See how it all connects? And it says, his eyes were a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, right? Like you see a general with many stripes on his jacket. That's what Lord of Hosts means. Lord of Hosts means a general in heaven and on earth, in space, throughout space and on earth. You see, the Bible is not what you think it is. And then he goes on to say he had a name written on his jacket that no one knew but he himself, meaning nobody on the earth knew the man's name. So if you ran up and said, hey, Jesus, he would look at you and be like, what are you talking about? Hey, get this person away from me. This crazy person, because that's not a name anyway. That wouldn't be his name. Nobody knows his name. But you do know his title is Lord of Hosts, meaning meaning general. So if you said like General, Muhammad or whatever, then he would probably respond to that. But if you ran up and said, hey, Jesus, he'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Right? And so after they turn, after they sick these war dogs on people, then the next thing that happens, they're gonna come themselves and finish off. That's when the real judgment occurs. You see? So when they talk about the tribulation in the Bible, people have no idea. The tribulation is gonna be something else. They're gonna destroy the planet. The whole place is gonna look like Gaza when they're finished, or most of it. It's gonna look like the Gaza Strip. They're gonna purge the planet, and it's gonna be all kinds of shit running around on this planet that you never seen before. Chris Cuomo, speaking of unholy terror. So I just, and I know that's a lot to take in, but I don't know. I felt inspired to say it, right? Because I realize that people have no idea what reality is, right? In Buddhism, they say reality is this. That's reality, right? So in Buddhism, they say that's reality, right? People have no idea what reality is. They don't know, right? And I don't. People like Chris Cuomo, they live in this bubble, right? These people, they live in a bubble. They have no idea what reality is. What's gonna happen is gonna pop your bubble. You see, it's not gonna be no going back to normal because everything that you ever saw before gonna be gone away, right? That's why it says in the Bible, I looked out and I saw a new heaven and a new earth. The earth is gonna get wiped as it should. Listen, I'm gonna say this. I feel for I'm gonna go. This one way too long. There is no way that this place can exist in the future. It just isn't, right? There's no way that it can exist. And if you understand reality, you understand what I'm saying is true. It's no way it can exist. That doesn't mean that's a bad thing. You see? Because it's actually a good thing. That means what's coming is better, but there has to be judgment first. You see? There has to be a reckoning, and there has to be judgment, and there has to be a cleansing period, the tribulation, right? And then, right, then we see a new heaven and a new earth. And it will be, you know, where you live in reality, not fantasy. This is a fantasy created by the Antichrist. This is a, people say the Matrix, that's what they're talking about, even though they don't understand. It's just a world created by the Antichrist, Satan, which is just a bunch of evil aliens. A head alien, obviously, the Antichrist, but the ones who didn't work for him, right? That would be Joe Biden, Benjamin Netanyahu, indirectly or directly, you see? And even some people out there, right? Indirectly or directly, right? You work for the Antichrist. But eventually, you got to make a choice.